So I received some crabby questions about one of my last videos, and I made this one to kind of clarify some things in regards to that. So I was asked some very crabby questions in regards to my past video on crab. So I'm hoping to clarify some of those. I'm hoping to answer some of the questions that I got. And I hope that this is an interesting video because I had a ton of fun making it and I learned a lot about crabs. So I guess this is, I answered questions and dopamine dive because Kylene got to just dive in. So I was asked what type of crab we have in Alaska and which ones we eat. I was also asked to clarify what steps are taken to fish for crab on a small subsistence household scale. I love talking about observations, information, fun facts, and ongoing science, but I also tend to hold back a lot of stuff so I don't just overwhelm people. Cue the Emma Stone. Why does everyone's eyes glaze over when I talk about this? I apparently love talking about this stuff so much that this actually became a two-part video. So in this first video, I'm going to discuss some of the different types of crab in Alaska and some of their defining properties. And then in the second video, I'll go into a brief overview explaining the small-scale crab fishing techniques and whatnot, including a quick explanation on the regulations, crab pots, and some of the other different gear. So I know nothing anecdotally of large super crabbers, and there are some big network shows that can tell you way more about that than I can. But what I do know, I'm still learning, and I check regulations regularly because they change frequently. I am in no way an expert, but I am a perpetual student, and I try my best to find reliable sources to pull from. I will link some of the sources in the description down below, but a big shout out to naturebob.com for being an amazing resource for this video. Also NOAA and the Alaska Division of Fish and Game. That is also my first resource for any information when it comes to Alaska wildlife and regulations. All linked in the description down below. So let's talk about crabs. There are more than 70,000 crab species worldwide, inhabiting many different environments on land and underwater. Crabs are part of the crustacean family, along with shrimp, lobster, and a few others. Let's start with a brief description on what a crab is. A true crab doesn't have a tail and has a hard outer shell protecting their topside. This hard shell is called a carapace. And they have 5 sets of legs, with the front pair equipped with pinchers, which are also known as, or referred to as, claws. Crabs have an exoskeleton, meaning they have a hard armor-like exterior that holds their shape and protects their insides. As the crab begins to grow, it fills up the interior space of its shell. And when it runs out of growing space, the crab molts. A crab spends weeks producing a new shell under the old one in preparation to molt. A tanner crab can shed its old shell in about 15 minutes once the new shell is ready, which I find super impressive to just shed your whole body off in 15 minutes. When a crab emerges from their old shell, they come out soft and spongy. The crab is very vulnerable to predators at first, but their new, larger shell hardens and continues its protective and structural role within a few weeks. It takes about 3 weeks for a tanner crab's body to regain its full armor potential. Their insides continue growing into the new, larger shell until the process repeats. I would like to add that there is a final molt, and that's usually once the crab is ready to breed and they are breeding size. That is their last molt before they die. Beaches can have both crab molts and dead crab on it, and the presence of a bunch of crab molts can be a good sign of a healthy population of crab growing in the area. But a bunch of dead crabs can mean the opposite. So, as funny as it sounds, the smell can definitely tell you which one it is, whether it's a molt or a dead crab. I can make a short video explaining and showing the difference between a dead crab and a molt crab, but I'm not sure if that's going too far down the crab deep dive hole, so let me know. Let me know if a deep dive into beach casualties and or rescues of some of those casualties may be something you want to see. Some of the more prolific or known crab species that are fished for in Alaska include king crab, tanner crab, Dungeness crab, and hair crab. I'm only going to cover a few of the crabs since there's about 18 total. So let's look at king crab first. The king crab, it's just that. I mean, look at one of these things. An adult king crab can have a leg span as long as 5 feet and a carapace as wide as 11 inches. They can also weigh more than 20 pounds. King crab are huge, yet they are ranked as the 5th, I repeat, the 5th largest crab in the world. King crab just look so battle ready in size and appearance. They're covered in spikes and pokey points all over their carapace as well as the rest of their shell. There are 3 distinct species of king crab. There's red, blue, and brown. The brown is also referred to as gold. There is a difference in size between the red, blue, and brown, with the red being the largest of the 3 and also more prevalent. King crab have a lifespan of anywhere from 20 to 30 years. Sadly, due to overfishing, warmer ocean temperatures, water contamination, decades of fishery mismanagement, and predation from many other marine species, their populations are not currently on the up and up. Tanner crab are the next crab that I'm going to cover in this video. These lengthy-legged guys are brownish red in color. Their legs can be close to around 3 feet long, and that's actually referring to the male tanner crab because there's an extreme size difference. The males can have about a 6-inch carapace, where the females tend to not grow beyond 3 inches in size on their carapace. Tanner crab are the 8th largest crab in the world, and this crab can be found at varying depths from 50 to 650 feet. This crab tends to like soft, sandy, or muddy ocean floor environments, and the lifespan of tanner crabs, it's shorter than many of the other crabs that I cover in this video. It's around 5 to 11 year life expectancy, and I think that's what's helped the tanner crab population stay more relatively stable compared to other crabs like the king crab. I will touch on that more in the next crab video that I make though, so. Talking about tanner crab, I really should mention that tanner crab is snow crab. If you see snow crab on a menu or on a label, it's tanner crab. But my question is, which one? Because there's 4 types. Well, more likely one of 2. It's more likely to be either from a Bairdi tanner crab or a Opilio tanner crab. Those are the 2 most commercially fished tanner out there. So, but just know that if you are eating a snow crab, it is tanner crab. It just looks prettier on a label. The next crab that I'm going to cover are Dungeness crab. They're technically my favorite. I think they're really cool looking, and I will admit they're also my favorite to eat. But I think they are just a perfect crab shape, and I like the way that they can tuck all their legs in, and that their back legs are technically swimmer legs. Most water crab lose the ability to swim once they leave their juvenile stages, but Dungeness crab have specialized little flat legs in the back that help them paddle about in the water. and I think that's really cute. So anyway, Dungeness are ranked as the 7th largest crab species in the world. And can I just say that I think it's pretty crazy that 3 out of the 10 world's largest crab species live off the coast of Alaska. It's pretty incredible, really. I mean, there's 70,000 plus types of crabs, and 3 out of the 10 biggest ones live in one area. The last crab that I wanted to discuss in this video isn't actually considered a true crab at all. Hermit crabs are not a true crab, even though it's in their name. Hermit crabs don't have a hard carapace shell on top. Instead, they actually have a shield on the back of their head, so they still have an external skeleton. It's just not nearly as protective or as strong as a carapace is. So in order to protect themselves, hermit crabs, they acquire shells for protection. The shells usually come from snails or a similar creature, and they also molt and grow. So they molt and grow, and they need to find bigger shells. So they will search, steal, and even fight for their next shell to grow into. Like, look at this little fighting dude. Hermit crabs are not one of the crabs that are commercially fished for or even thought of as being edible in most people's minds, even though they are. You could eat a hermit crab if you wanted. You can eat it. They're just not going to be commercially fished for. They don't come in the same biomass that a lot of the other crab like Dungeness, tanner, and king crab do. They come in like singular or like pairs. They're not very abundant in mass quantities. They tend to be more of a novelty pet than like that lives usually way longer most people's preconceived expectations, I guess. I'm gonna take a moment here to remember Johnathan. Johnathan the hermit crab was the oldest known captive hermit crab. He passed in 2021 at the age of 45 and a half years old. His sister Kate passed away at the age of 35 in 2011. Their owner bought them on a boardwalk in Maryland back in 1976 when they were just the size of the tip of her finger. And even if you don't think a crab will last as long as these two, please remember that most hermit crabs have an expected lifespan of 15 years. So they're not just a novelty pet item. So to summarize my full PSA, it would be hermit crabs are more than a painted shell novelty creature and should have an extended care plan for their growth and their needs. Well, there's some of the Alaska crab species broken down for you and just what a crab is. There are many regulations in catching shellfish in the waters around Alaska. It's species, season, and method dependent. The fishery history is filled with gold rush type enthusiasm, and it has played a major part in how we have to deal with fishing for crab today. So in the next video on crab, I'm going to talk about some of the fishing methods, gear, and some of the history and regulations that go hand in hand with going crab fishing. So thanks for joining me for today's video. I think one by one, these videos are really starting to find a rhythm closer to what my intent is on this channel. And so if you're willing to stick out this growing period with me, and I would really appreciate you hitting the subscribe button. And if you like this video, then please let me know by hitting the like button. Thanks again, folks. Stay inspired, everybody.